They came from beyond the stars, cloaked in ships of gleaming metal, with banners fluttering in alien winds. The Galactic Confederation had no need for diplomacy. They had come not for conquest or alliance, but for blood. To them, humanity was a novelty, a primitive species bred for one purpose: sport. They rained fire on the cities, flattened defenses in hours, and scooped up the survivors like livestock. Across every continent, vast hunting preserves sprang up, cordoned off by force fields and orbital monitors, wild zones where the Confederation's elite could test their skill against human prey. Within these preserves, the game was simple. Humans were released with nothing: no weapons, no supplies, no hope. They ran, stumbled, hid, died. The aliens laughed. They wagered fortunes on kill counts, prized rare trophies taken from the resilient few who dared to fight back. Humans, to them, were little more than clever beasts, dangerous only in groups and laughably fragile alone. In one such preserve, under a bruised twilight sky, a single man emerged from the latest cull. His uniform had been stripped away. His equipment was gone. Mud caked his skin, and blood, some of it his own, darkened the rags he wore. Yet his eyes, cold and calculating, missed nothing. His muscles, honed by years of brutal training, moved with precision and silent purpose. He was not just another survivor. He was a predator whose instincts had been sharpened on battlegrounds more savage than anything these aliens could imagine. They had not taken a civilian. They had taken a Navy SEAL. The hunters who first encountered him thought little of it. Another human, another easy chase. They descended in gleaming exosuits, armed with plasma lances and scanning drones. They jeered in their alien tongues, already savoring the kill. They fanned out across the terrain, confident their technology would make short work of the lone man. They never saw him, not at first. The first pair, brash and overconfident, vanished without a trace. Their signals blinked out mid-transmission. Command dispatched more units, grumbling about terrain interference, faulty equipment. Then another hunter vanished. A strangled cry cut off mid-sentence. Only scorched brush and bloodstains marked where he had fallen. It wasn't luck. It wasn't random. It was methodical. The SEAL understood terrain better than they did. He knew the flow of water, the whisper of wind through rocks, the way shadows deepened at dusk. He laid snares of sharpened sticks camouflaged under leaves. He rigged deadfalls triggered by tripwires woven from stripped plant fibers. Primitive tools, perhaps, but guided by ruthless efficiency. Each trap was a lesson written in blood. Here a severed limb, there a cracked exosuit leaking fluorescent fluid. The aliens grew cautious. They began to move in tighter formations, overlapping their fields of vision, deploying sentry drones. It didn't save them. He adapted faster. He learned the patterns of their patrols, the blind spots in their scanners, the weaknesses in their armor. A rockfall here, an ambush from the trees there. Every attack was swift, brutal, and final. By the third day, whispers of fear crept into the hunters' ranks. Veterans from wars across the galaxy, soldiers who had crushed rebellions and butchered insurgents, now hesitated before entering the undergrowth. They clutched their weapons tighter. Their voices dropped to hushed murmurs. Some even spoke of spirits, vengeful ghosts conjured by the humans to avenge their dead. The Confederation commanders scoffed at such superstition. They authorized heavier weapons, wider sweeps, harsher tactics. But it didn't matter. They had already made their greatest mistake. They had underestimated a human trained not just to survive, but to dominate. To stalk the enemy, to adapt faster than the mind could think, to kill without hesitation or mercy. As darkness fell once more, a hunter squad advanced cautiously through a ravine, sensors sweeping the cliffs above. A faint noise, barely more than a breath, drew their attention. Too late. A crude but perfectly positioned deadfall of boulders smashed down from above, crushing two instantly. The survivors reeled, plasma bolts firing wildly into the shadows. In the confusion, he struck. Silent as death, he moved among them, disabling their suits with precise, savage blows. A plasma blade, scavenged from a fallen enemy, flashed in his hand. One slash, one kill. No wasted motion. No sound but the rasp of breathing and the wet thud of bodies hitting the ground. When the final hunter fell, gasping in the dirt, he leaned close. No words were spoken. None were needed. The message was clear. Humans were not prey. They were hunters too. High above, hidden in the clouds, Confederation Command watched the dwindling dots on their tactical displays and frowned. This was no longer a game. The hunt had changed, and the hunted had become the predator. The hunters were no longer laughing. Their arrogance had evaporated, replaced by unease. They had been trained to believe that their advanced technology, their superior strength, and their centuries of experience made them invincible. Now, in the face of an enemy they couldn't predict, they began to doubt. The human, once a mere distraction, had become a threat. The SEAL understood that this wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about striking fear into them. He couldn't outrun their numbers forever, but he could make them fear the very ground they walked on. He moved swiftly and silently, collecting every bit of alien tech he could scavenge, dismantling weapons, hacking into communication systems, modifying their gear for his own use. The alien technology, designed to be intuitive, was surprisingly adaptable, but not as advanced as they believed. Where others might have struggled, the SEAL adapted quickly. Each new device was a tool in his arsenal, a way to even the odds. His first move was simple: sabotage. He tampered with the drones, reprogramming them to send false signals, confusing the hunters. They spent hours chasing shadows, turning on one another, becoming paranoid. Each moment of hesitation was another chance for him to strike. The SEAL knew that the only way to break their spirit was to show them how vulnerable they were, how easily their superiority could be shattered. The alien hunters began to make mistakes. Traps left untouched, weak points in their patrols, equipment malfunctioning at critical moments. They began to rely on their tech too much, letting their vigilance slip. That was when he moved in. With nothing more than a blade and the camouflage of his surroundings, the SEAL made his first kill. He cut the alien down silently, stripping it of its weapons and armor. The hunter never saw him coming. As the SEAL disappeared back into the brush, the body was left behind as a chilling reminder of their own fragility. The hunters thought they were invincible, but they were wrong. Soon after, the SEAL used their own tech against them. He had studied their communication systems, learning the codes, mimicking their signals. He fed them false information, led them to dead zones, created chaos within their ranks. One by one, they began to question their own equipment. Their once solid network of coordination frayed as the SEAL turned their tools against them. The fear spread like wildfire. A few began to believe in the stories, the tales of the human ghost that stalked their kind, of the unrelenting force that came from nowhere and vanished into nothing. Some even spoke of the spirit of vengeance, of an unstoppable hunter that would never give up. Their bravado cracked. The once impervious hunters had become the hunted, and the SEAL was the predator. They tried to adapt, to fight back with overwhelming force. But they still underestimated him. They deployed heavier units, cloaked drones, and power armor squads. But none of it worked. The SEAL used their own arrogance to his advantage. He baited them into traps, making them believe they had cornered him, only for them to walk into his carefully planned ambushes. His strikes were brutal, fast, and effective. One or two downed aliens, quickly followed by a complete disappearance into the dense foliage. They never saw him until it was too late. He made it personal. He left nothing to chance. Every alien he killed, every weapon he took, every tactic he adapted, it all worked toward one goal: to break them. His attacks became more refined, more precise. He struck at their leaders, their strongest warriors. The Confederation may have been able to replace their soldiers, but they couldn't replace their commanders so easily. He knew that if he could take down their top brass, the rest of the hunters would lose heart. He was a silent predator, picking them off one by one. Their numbers dwindled, and with each loss, their resolve weakened. The SEAL didn't just kill. He sent a message. With every strike, with every ambush, He made sure the hunters knew who was in control. He wasn't running from them anymore. He was hunting them. Every time they closed in, they were only walking deeper into his trap. He was forcing them to confront a terrifying truth. No matter how advanced their weapons or how vast their numbers, they were dealing with something far more dangerous than they realized. A human. The alien commanders, watching from afar, were growing frustrated. They had underestimated him from the start, thinking him nothing more than a simple prey animal. Now, they had a problem on their hands. They could send in more hunters, deploy more advanced technology, but they knew it would never be enough. They could see it in the dwindling numbers of their forces, the growing fear in their ranks. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. The SEAL was not just a survivor. He was becoming something worse, a nightmare. The Confederation, in all their vast power, had no answer for a force of nature like him. They had set the stage for a game, but the game had already turned his favor. They might have come for sport, but they were now learning the hard way that humans did not play by the same rules. He would show them, once and for all, that humanity's strength was not in numbers or technology or sheer brute force. It was in the ability to adapt, to fight with everything, no matter the odds. And he would make them remember the day they came to Earth. The alien hunters were losing their edge. Their attempts to overwhelm the human prey had failed, and they were now scrambling to adapt. They had underestimated his resilience, his intelligence, and his sheer will to survive. But the SEAL wasn't just surviving. He was hunting them. Every step they took, every move they made, was another misstep, another opportunity for him to strike. Their fear was palpable now, creeping into their ranks like a poison. No matter how many weapons they threw at him, no matter how advanced their technology, they could never predict where or when he would appear next. The SEAL had become a shadow in their midst, a whisper on the wind, always one step ahead. He had learned to use their fear against them. Their once confident posture had turned into a brittle shell, their eyes darting at every sound, every movement. They were constantly looking over their shoulders, waiting for the strike they couldn't anticipate. With each kill, with each ambush, the SEAL twisted the knife deeper into their psyche. The aliens were no longer playing a game. They were fighting for survival. He began to target their weaknesses. It wasn't enough to pick them off one by one. Now he hunted the leaders. The generals, the commanders, the ones who called the shots, who thought they were above the fray. Those were his true targets. Each kill sent a ripple of confusion through their ranks. The once coordinated squads were now fractured, lost in their own paranoia. They couldn't trust each other. They couldn't rely on their technology. Their communication systems were down, sabotaged at every turn. It wasn't just that the SEAL was better at survival. He was better at war, better at turning their own strengths into weaknesses. The SEAL had made their fear his weapon. He knew that the Confederation, for all its power and technology, was built on a fragile foundation, their belief in their own superiority. The longer he kept up his attacks, the more that belief eroded. They began to question their own tactics, their own technology. They had come to Earth to hunt, to entertain themselves with the blood of an inferior species, and now they were being hunted. It was humiliating. It was terrifying. The SEAL wasn't just killing aliens. He was dismantling their entire operation, piece by piece. Every time they deployed a new strategy, he found a way to counter it, to turn it against them. He had turned their advanced weapons into scrap, their drones into distractions. Every time they thought they had him cornered, they were wrong. He was always watching, always learning, always adapting. The aliens, for all their strength and technology, couldn't match his ingenuity. The SEAL had been trained to fight in environments far harsher than this one. He knew how to turn the terrain into a weapon, how to use it to his advantage. The forests, the ravines, the caves, he knew them all, and he knew how to make them work for him. He used the environment to hide, to trap, to kill. Where the aliens saw only obstacles, he saw opportunities. Every tree, every rock, every shadow became a tool in his hands. The Confederation began to realize that the situation was dire. They had lost control of the hunt. The SEAL wasn't just a survivor anymore. He was the predator. and they were his prey. They had sent their best hunters, their most advanced units, and still, they couldn't capture him. They had underestimated him from the beginning, thinking that he was just another weak human, someone who could be taken down easily. But now, as their forces dwindled and their tactics failed, they began to understand. Humans weren't just prey. Humans were capable of anything. The SEAL had shown them that. And with every passing day, the stakes grew higher. He didn't just want to survive anymore. He wanted to win. He wanted to make them understand that humanity was not something to be hunted. He wanted them to feel the full weight of their mistake. They had come to Earth to kill. They had come for sport. And now they were learning that there was nothing more dangerous than a human pushed to the edge. The SEAL wasn't just fighting for his life. He was fighting for every human who had ever been hunted, every life that had been lost. He was fighting for revenge. He knew the endgame was coming. The Confederation would send in their final forces, their ultimate weapons, but it wouldn't matter. He had already won. The aliens were broken, scattered, and their morale was shattered. They could throw everything they had at him, but it wouldn't be enough. The SEAL had taken their game and turned it into his victory. They had underestimated humanity, and now they would pay the price. The end of the hunt was in sight. The SEAL had become the nightmare they couldn't escape, the force they couldn't overcome. And as he prepared for the final push, he knew one thing for certain. Humanity would never be prey again. The Confederation was on the brink. The remaining hunters, those few still alive, had become shells of their former selves. Their once pristine armor was scarred and battered. Their weapons, though powerful, felt like useless relics. The SEAL had systematically torn apart everything they had built. Their confidence, their organization, their very sense of superiority. He had broken them, not just physically, but mentally. Their pride was shattered, their spirits crushed. Every hunter who fell was a blow to their belief that they were invincible. Every time the SEAL struck, it was a reminder that they were not the top of the food chain. The final wave of reinforcements arrived, but it was too late. They had sent their elite forces, their most advanced technology. Cloaking devices, shock troops, and weapons of mass destruction were deployed, all designed to end the hunt once and for all. But the SEAL was ready. He had anticipated this moment. They thought they were bringing overwhelming force, but all they were doing was sealing their fate. They were playing into his hands. The SEAL had learned their patterns. He had studied their tactics, their weaknesses, their very psychology. He knew how they thought. He knew how they moved. And now, he used that knowledge against them. They tried to close in, to encircle him, but he was always one step ahead. His traps were set, his ambushes planned. He struck with surgical precision. No one knew where the next attack would come from. No one knew who would be next. The fear that had begun as a whisper was now a roar. One by one, the Confederation's best soldiers fell, their last screams swallowed by the dense jungle, their bodies left behind as trophies for the hunter. It didn't matter how much firepower they brought, how many reinforcements they sent. The SEAL adapted, evolved, and struck with relentless fury. Each alien that fell was a reminder to the others that they were no match for the human they had underestimated. Each kill fueled his resolve. He wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. He was fighting for the idea that no one should ever dare to see humanity as prey. The aliens had been ruthless in their pursuit, but now they found themselves helpless in the face of a force they could neither understand nor defeat. They had come to Earth to hunt, but they were the ones being hunted. It was a reversal of fate, a cosmic lesson in humility. The SEAL wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was the embodiment of humanity's refusal to be subjugated. With every strike, with every ambush, he tore down the walls of their arrogance. The Confederation had seen countless worlds fall under their rule, but here, on Earth, they were the ones on the losing side. The final battle was nearing, but there was no sense of triumph in the air. The Confederation knew they were doomed. Their remaining soldiers could feel it. The SEAL had done more than just survive. He had reshaped the game. He had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity could rise above. He had shown them that humans didn't just fight to survive. They fought to win, to adapt, to conquer. and they never stopped fighting. The alien hunters were broken, beaten, and scattered. Their once proud forces now resembled a disjointed, disorganized rabble. The final victory was inevitable. And then, as the last few remained, the SEAL made his final move. No longer was there a need for stealth, no more need for traps. He had already broken them, already torn apart their structure. It was time to finish what he had started. With nothing left to lose, the final confrontation was a formality. The Confederation was no longer a threat. They had come to Earth for sport, but they had underestimated the tenacity of humanity, the will to survive, the refusal to be conquered. As the last of the hunters fell, the SEALs stood among the wreckage of their once great army. His mission was complete. The Earth was safe. The Confederation had learned a brutal lesson. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was the predator.